It's not that unusual that people kind of don't like the crowds at first when they come back. They're like, oh, I don't want to be here. There's just too much stuff going on. They're used to that little confined, area inside of a spacecraft where you have the walls and there's only a few other people around, so it takes a little bit for those folks to kind of get used to it again. They didn't like all that open space. They were used to being in modules and smaller areas. Some people didn't like a lot of people around. It kind of freaked them out to have all these people around. So, they didn't like going to the shopping mall and things like that. So there are definitely stories about people who kind of had to do a little re-entry back into life on Earth. On a space station mission, you're up there for, generally around 6 months. And so you kind of fall into a routine and things become much more of a kind of a normal work week as you would have here on the Earth. You are in these modules and they're kind of like hallways, right? So they're kind of long. Even though the external is cylindrical, the insides are rectangular or square. And so you have, there's no real floor because there's no gravity. Of course you can't be claustrophobic if you're going to be an astronaut. So we would start in the morning at, say, around 6 a.m. GMT and have a conference with the mission control centers. You'd work, have lunch breaks, have exercise breaks, have little breaks here and there. And then in the evening, around 12 hours later, so you'd have an evening conference with the control centers. And then, then you're kind of done for the day. And so, there's time to kind of settle down. And then on weekends, your workload is generally lighter. And so like here on Earth, a lot of times you're using that time to catch up on things, or you're using that time to work on things that you want to work on. If you want to write in your journals or something like that, you have some time with that. Or just keep up with friends and family with email and things like that. Most of the time, though, we're looking out the window, taking pictures. You never get tired of the view of the Earth, and every part of the Earth is different and beautiful in its own way. And so, for example, I shot over 16,000 photos of the Earth during my 6.5 months in space. I wouldn't say I got homesick, but around the 3-4 month point, I think most of us kind of feel like, this is still cool, but I wouldn't mind going home either. But I mean, we knew when we were going to go down, or more or less when we were going to go down. So it's like, okay, I got a couple more months to go. It's no big deal. There are a lot of parallels about this pandemic we've all been under for the last year and long duration spaceflight. Probably the biggest difference is I knew what I was getting into when I, agreed to go fly to the station. And I also knew when I was coming down, more or less, so I could set my expectations. So that's the biggest difference. In the pandemic, we all suddenly found ourselves in kind of a lockdown, and we didn't know when it was going to end. And so I think one of the most important things during this pandemic has been for people not to set your expectations on thinking when it's going to end. Because if you set those artificial goalposts, and then that comes and goes, you're going to be disappointed. So I did use a lot of the things I learned in space. We had the same tools. Of course, when we're in space, you're isolated from your loved ones and your friends, and so you use the electronics to communicate. You use email. We had a voice over IP phone, so we'd make phone calls. We had some video conferencing capabilities. The biggest difference here, too, is that during the pandemic, you could actually go outside and take a walk. Take your dog for a walk or go walk around the block, and that really helped a lot for me, too. Couldn't do that on the station, but we did have the beautiful view of the Earth, so we'd go look out the window and take photographs. So a lot of the same kind of tools and coping skills, if you will, with the difference being that when we were on the station, we had time to prepare mentally to go up into isolation. Humans are so adaptable, you get used to that environment. And so re-entry into the world here on Earth, that for some people it can be an adjustment. If you come down on a Russian spacecraft, then it's in this beautiful area where there's a big birch forest. And so there's not a lot of people around anyway. And so, you can go for these walks in the forest. When you get your balance back, you can go running out in the forest, which we all love to do. And then you kind of gradually, get back into the crowds and things like that. There are going to be people who are like me who, are eager to get out and get back around other people and crowds and things like that. But then there are going to be people like some of the astronauts that didn't really like being around a lot of people and had to kind of gradually reintegrate. If you're one of the people that is kind of a little bit nervous about getting out in crowds, just take it slow. Get together with some friends, get together with a small group. Go out, on walks or hikes with your friends and gradually get into, reintegrate into the more crowded things that you have to do.